Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Risk with Dr. Naveen Agarwal. Each week, we talk about a topic related to risk management of medical devices in a very casual and informal way. This is not a webinar or lecture. Rather, our goal is to talk about key topics and challenges in a very informal way and share best practices. I'm your host, Naveen Agarwal, and I'm the principal and founder at Achieve, where my personal mission is to help you achieve success in risk management. My guest in this episode is Pascal Werner. He has a lot of experience developing digital therapeutic applications using artificial intelligence and machine learning. Now, this is a hot topic these days, and there are many challenges and opportunities. There are questions such as bias in the AI/ML model, or explainability of the model, or how much uncertainty is there in our estimates and conclusions. These are difficult topics and a lot of work being done in this area. So we talked about this topic as part of a live LinkedIn audio series in front of a live audience. You're about to hear a recording of our conversation. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. With that, guys, welcome to all of you. We're going to talk to Pascal Werner today about SAMD, AI/ML devices, and this general topic from a regulatory and also risk management point of view. So I'm so excited to welcome Pascal today. It's going to be a great conversation, and I also look forward to your contribution and your thoughts when we open the floor for discussion. So with that, Pascal, welcome. I'm so glad to be with you. Thank you for joining me. Please start by introducing yourself a little bit to our audience today.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me, Naveen, first of all. So, a few words about myself. I studied medical engineering a while ago, and then happened to co-found a startup doing smartphone-based hearing tests in 2013. And then, that was a time when apps were not necessarily considered medical devices. Competent authorities were not really sure what to do. But then after a while, the thought came up, so you have a product that happens to be a medical device, like an audiometer, which you traditionally use to make or to conduct hearing tests, and then you do the same, but digitally. Like, why should that not be a medical device? So we started working on that, but also realizing that there was just not a lot of experience generally around with working on digital health, working on smartphone or like medical apps, so to say. So that's how I got into the regulatory part of software development or development of medical apps, or then also like other like AI applications. And so then long story short, 2019 turned over to being freelance consultant for the topic mostly for startups, small, medium enterprises on everything like QMS, technical documentation, with a main focus on Europe. But to some extent, there's from now and then like overlap with the FDA or like topics.
That's awesome.
But focused overly or most of all on Europe.
That's really awesome. So it looks like you were part of this movement even before it became a buzzword. You started working on these like not more than 10 years ago. So I was curious to learn this from you, Pascal. Why is this such a big deal now? Why has there been so much interest in AI, ML, SAMD, digital therapeutics? Sometimes my head spins with all these buzzwords. Can you help us understand why the industry is now moving in this direction?
Yeah, good question. So, I guess overall it is because the technology exists. So, everyone has a phone in their hand that, can do a lot, probably more than a lot of computers could do not that long ago. And why just use it for taking pictures and chatting with friends if you can also use it for medical purposes? And then the other thing, in the same with AI and machine learning now, or like, not just now, it is existing for quite a while, but now with generative AI comes up again. So why only use it to generate pictures, but if you can also use it for your health benefit.
Technology is moving fast. A lot of good stuff is happening, and I think people are realizing that we can do a lot more in solving some of the most difficult medical problems today. So, Pascal, are you able to share an example of, let's say, application or or a software-based device that you have worked on or you have some experience with?
Yeah, so I mean, as I said, like my focus is mostly on the one side, digital therapeutics, and then the other hand, like AI and machine learning devices. So like for digital therapeutics, I mean, there's a lot in the US, but like in Europe and specifically Germany now, since there is like a more established reimbursement pathway called DiGA, like digital translation of digital health application in German, digitale Gesundheitsanwendung. Like there's kind of quite a plenitude of those apps, like a lot focus on, let's say, mental health, like depression, or kind of lots of different chronic diseases for which there may not be like a very established way of treating. I mean, traditionally medicine is very good at treating acute problems, but then once things get chronic, I mean, often a behavior change is needed, and that is something that you have in your hand that can give you, that can nudge you, that can give you a notification that you can use whenever you have a few minutes time. I mean, that is useful for that. So worked on a good handful of those apps, like let's say that we use some form of cognitive behavioral therapy, for example, to help treat depression or help with being overweight and so on.
I see. That's very fascinating. It reminds me of like a AI ML based device that got cleared through the de novo process recently, and I came across this and wrote about it on the Let's Talk Risk newsletter. This actually helps doctors diagnose in early childhood, as early as like 2 to 3 years old, signs of ASD, which is autistic spectrum disorder, right? Autism spectrum disorder. So it's a tough problem. And what you're describing, depression, mental health, behavioral issues, are tough problems. And looks like AI ML is being used in that area to solve some of these problems. Is that a good way of understanding this?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, when you were covering then the other side, like more like the doctors rather than the patient side of it. But I mean, overall, it's like something that may not be that well understood by a lot of healthcare providers. So giving them tools that helps them predict or prognose things, like that definitely helps. And then on the other hand, I mean, a lot of mental healthcare providers are completely overwhelmed, and there's a lot of waiting time. So let's say that even if maybe like a digital therapeutic may not be as effective as like normal traditional support. I mean, I'm not saying it is not, but like it's even if it would not be, like then just giving, let's say it's just 80% good, it's good, but it's actually available versus a therapist is not available. Well, then you probably also take the 80% approach. So I think generally it makes things a lot more accessible. And let's say if you rank different health issues, like let's say from 1 to 10, and maybe like only the most severe ones actually need a therapist. And then if you're like if it's not that severe, but you may still benefit from help, like that is something where digital therapeutics can help a lot, I think.
So, it just gives me an idea now, listening to you, that it's all a question of benefit risk, right? Some of the problems that are tough to solve, we can solve with AI ML and provide that favorable benefit risk, just similar to other medical devices. So it has a place in the market in the application space. Because what I'm hearing you say is that even if you can get to about 80% benefit with much lower risk, it is still worth it, right? So does that sound about right? How you would evaluate a potential AI ML based application for medical applications from a benefit risk point of view?
Yeah, I think so. And like, I mean, when you have to do benefit risk assessment for any device, right? So it's like, what is the risk? What is the benefit? And if the one outweighs the other, I mean, the benefit outweighs the other, then that's worth it.
But it also is a little bit challenging, I think, to demonstrate with a lot of clear-cut data, unlike traditional medical devices. So from that point of view, can you say a little bit about how the regulatory approach is evolving to support this, innovation in AI ML for the medical applications?
Well, I mean, I can mostly speak about Europe here.
Sure.
And unfortunately, it is not evolving that much
Okay.
so far.
Okay.
So, I mean, obviously, like all the different stakeholders are kind of learning and getting more used to it. Like also just remember like talking to competent authority in Berlin, like, I don't know, like, as you were saying, like 10 years ago or so, and their only response was like, yeah, we are not experienced, or like not just them, but like in other states as well, we're not really experienced with that. Like we can't really help or support here. But now people definitely ask a lot more pointed questions now, more what to look out for, what to do. But especially when it comes to that reimbursement pathway, it seems that that the authority in Germany is, I mean, their main background is as pharma. So like a lot of concepts from that are being brought over, and the scrutiny is actually more increasing. And like while in the beginning, let's say like just a systematic data analysis of the data, the use data that you already had for your device was sufficient to get preliminarily listed. Now you need to run a small RCT, which obviously is a lot more effort.
Yeah.
So I would say, at least for reimbursement, things definitely get a little harder, but it also some extent it makes sense. To some extent, as long as the kind of the rules are the same for everyone, or the interpretation is the same for everyone, it makes sense. But I mean, it changed over time.
Gotcha.
But from a regulatory, it's a purely regulatory perspective. I think the main issue actually still is that, I mean, you have those risk classes in Europe under MDR, and it's just really not clear yet where digital therapeutics fall. Really, I mean,
I see.
I'm not sure how familiar everyone is like with Rule 11 for a software as a medical device, but it basically says if you provide information for as a basis for decisions for therapeutic or diagnostic purposes, then it's a class 2A or higher.
Yeah.
And if not, then it's class 1. I mean,
gotcha.
Ignoring monitoring devices for now.
So I think so it'll depend a lot on what you are claiming as your intended use or indication.
And just literally where your business is registered. Gotcha. So meaning if you're in some states like Bavaria and Hamburg, you're maybe class 1. If you're in Berlin, you're maybe 2A or 2B for literally the same device. So that obviously makes business a bit harder for the one than for the others. And I see like that, like just harmonization and expectations would be helping a lot.
So what I'm hearing you say is that there is still a lot of uncertainty and open questions. My understanding is a little bit better on the US FDA side, and what I'm reading, just to share with the audience here, and I would love to have comments from you guys too, is that the FDA's actually regulatory approach is evolving in a pretty nice way. I think they have set up a center of excellence. They have issued certain guidances. And it seems to me that many of the devices that have gone through the de novo process are being positioned as an aid in the diagnosis, not the diagnostic itself, but as an aid in diagnosis. And that kind of lowers the bar on benefit risk. Benefit is lower, but also, residual risk may also be a little bit more tolerable. So we leave it at that, Pascal. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start inviting our colleagues from the audience to participate in this discussion. Guys, David, your hand is up. You know what to do. I'm going to bring you on. But while I'm bringing David on stage with us here, a virtual stage, guys, it's very simple. Just find this button at the bottom of your screen to raise your hand if you are interested in joining this conversation. And I can bring more people at one time. So don't wait for your turn. We run out of time very quickly. If you are interested, I'll start bringing you on. So with that, David, you are on first. Please unmute your mic and share what you have in mind.
Thank you, Naveen. And also thank you, Pascal. It's a great discussion. I have a general question. And maybe if you could just comment on some of the different tools and methodologies that are either being used or possibly necessary in some of the newer technologies that are out that are very complicated, involving people and software and possibly AI. Can you comment on that?
So you mean like the tools that are being used to develop?
Yeah, like from a quality perspective, and maybe quality/risk. The tools that we're using, engineers, doctors, from design to post-market, to actually accommodate the differences in some of these newer technologies that you're talking about.
Yeah, good question. So I think, first of all, one point I'd really like to point out is an SAMD is still a medical device, regardless of that it's software. So from a risk management perspective, I think in the beginning, you can even really ignore that it's a digital therapeutic or so, but the main question is like, what harm can it cause and how, and where does it come from? And it's not necessarily like, let's say, not because the database is failing or whatnot, but it's like because of, let's say, wrong information is being provided, or the intended purpose is misunderstood, or there's a certain higher prevalence for certain problems in that in the patient population or so. So it's really more like what is the indication that patients have, what like harm can be caused by using that device. And then only once you have established that, then you can dig deeper into like where is that actually coming from. Because if you do like a traditional FEMA or so, like where you try to look at every individual or every possible failure mode, you're not going to come to a conclusion really. Yeah. So for hardware products, you have like a handful, a good handful, but still a manageable amount of failure modes. If you look at software, you easily are in the millions.
And you may not be able to get there, right? So I think what I'm hearing you say, Pascal, is that the fundamental approach to hazard analysis is no different, whether it's a typical medical device or a software-based medical device, right? How you do it is not much different, but you have to maybe apply a different expertise, and maybe an FMEA might not be the best tool. Is that a correct understanding, Pascal?
Right. I'm not necessarily saying no FEMA, but like not, but more target. So like that shouldn't necessarily be the first step, but more knowing what can actually happen with the device, to have a bit of a idea where to look for and being a bit more targeted in finding root causes.
Got you. Thank you. Rajat, you're on. So go ahead, please unmute your mic and share what you have in mind.
Yeah, thank you, Naveen and Pascal. It's a very interesting project. And something that I have been wondering about, kind of these therapeutics and AI ML, is kind of the biases and how holistic these can be. Like, how does the risk evolve or change over time? Because of course, like you'll be training with a limited maybe patient data initially, and if you have to kind of look at that evolving alignment for AI, how does that work, and how does that factor to the risk?
Right. So like that definitely one of the main problems. And like, let's say when you come from Europe, one of the main things the FDA is asking you is like, what kind of, how did you ensure, or at least attempt to limit the bias? So meaning like if you run a trial, you would at least want to have site over here, and also like make sure that there's enough participants involved, kind of representing the population overall. So
I think what I will add to that, Pascal, is that this question actually is difficult to solve, and a lot of very good thoughts and good best practices are evolving. And I have come across several reports, even FDA and also the MDIC here, Medical Device Innovation Consortium. They are working very actively on this point. So what we will do is that we'll try to compile those resources and share with you guys in our Let's Talk Risk newsletter. So we recognize bias in our algorithm is a very major problem. And I think best practices are going to evolve. So with that, I want to move on and invite Ed to please share what you have in mind, Ed. Go ahead. Ed, can you unmute your mic, please? Okay, I'll give Ed a moment to join us. In the meantime, Mark, you're on. So go ahead and please unmute your mic.
Hey there.
Hey.
Great conversation. Something that I I'm a big proponent of advanced technologies and innovation and risk management and safety. Something I've been struggling with are the black box issues of integrating AI tools. So how do we prove that we have the appropriate controls over our product if we're using machine learning if we don't know what it's doing? That's my question.
Yeah. So explainability, right? I heard about that. Can we explain what the machine is doing?
Well, in some cases you can, in some cases you can't. And I guess that's one of the reasons why there is not yet a ChatGPT or generative AI-based device around, and it will probably not be for quite a while. And I mean, when you talk about machine learning or like data, let's say more like we call it data-driven medical device, or data-driven SAMD. So like whenever there is a option to do it simple, like let's say linear regression over neural network, for example, then I mean it would always go for the simpler one just because it makes explainability a lot easier. And I mean, for machine learning, there are some ways of doing it, even if it's, I mean, starting with some kind of fast testing where you can ensure that even at least smaller variations in input don't lead to a drastically different output, for example. But then also like a bit more sophisticated, like explaining why is that neural network doing what it's doing. I mean, there are some good attempts on that, but for generative AI, that's too new, really, and there's not much that I'm aware of yet. And also, I'm curious to see what kind of when there will be medical devices around.
But I think
it definitely needs a lot more
work. But here's a thought I have, guys, and I've thought about this a lot, because at the end of the day, can we even explain as clearly as we can when we have a traditional device working with people? It has no software, but software from people's mind. Explainability is always a challenge, but at the end of the day, we are talking about uncertainty in our estimation of risk, right? How much uncertainty can we tolerate? So I think it's going to evolve how much process control you want to put in your algorithm in the first place. But as practitioners, I think we should be able to somehow quantify the uncertainty in our conclusion or results. So Mark, please hang in there, because I think we're going to probably have some follow-up discussion, but I'm going to give Ed now a chance to please join me and share what he has in mind. Ed, go ahead.
Yes, Naveen, this is a very interesting discussion. But for people who want to know more, there is a conference coming up next month in Cincinnati, the AFDO REPS AI Summit. And that conference is got some really key people in this area. I know one of my good friends, Pat Baird, who led the development of the AMI, was it technical report?
Yep.
34971, which has now been accepted by ISO as a project to develop a ISO technical report on AI. So that just happened this week. So if you want, and the big thing is the FDA heavily participates in this. So if you're in the U.S. Market and you want to ask questions, they have what they call office hours, where you can actually meet one-to-one with some of the FDA people and get your questions answered. It's a great activity. It's also got a small business fee for attending. Mm-hmm. So you don't have to pay as much as the big companies do. I think you'll find it very beneficial, because this is a rapidly expanding world. And they're going to be talking about the FDA's new process for what the heck is it? PCCP or something like that.
Yeah, you mean the change control? The change controls.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
Got
It's
it.
going to be one of the topics going to be discussed, and it's with some of the FDA people who were involved in it. So
this is so awesome to hear that. And guys, you see the awesomeness of this forum here. We learned so much from each other. Ed, thank you for sharing this and informing us about this conference. The AMI guidance, I think, is something, or technical report is something that we should all become very familiar. So, Ed, thank you for bringing it up. with that, I think I have... go ahead, Ed. You had something else in mind.
Yeah, one more thing. It's been adopted by British standards as well.
Oh, nice.
And so it's available through British standards or AMI, either one right now. But
nice.
Within the next couple of years, it'll be a ISO technical report.
Love it. So, guys, we have very little time left. So now I'm going to invite Phil. Phil, you have been waiting patiently. Please unmute your mic and share what you have in mind.
Yes, thank you, Naveen. Thanks for putting this together. So the question you bring up about certainty is actually something that's really interesting. So I was part of an objective to add AI into a MRI screening software intended for technologists to utilize. And what it did is it pulled out areas of interest that might be something that they should look at. Mm-hmm. And there was two areas of uncertainty. One is, obviously, there was a percentage that it was portraying, but what did that percentage mean? Did it mean that it was possible or likely? Mm-hmm. And then the other issue we ran into was the UI aspect itself. Mm-hmm. It was it certain or uncertain if it was an area of interest? So something that we tested on and found that FDA also questioned. So there's not only a human aspect of uncertainty, but also the AI aspect of uncertainty.
Yeah, and maybe it just compounds the situation. But I think as risk practitioners, we have to be mindful of that and quantify that uncertainty as much as possible, right? That's what we need to do.
Absolutely.
Thank you for sharing that, Phil. Awesome. Shreya, I will just take one last question or comment from you. We're going to run out of time soon. So please go ahead and unmute your mic.
Thank you. I actually joined just when the topic of the conference was being discussed. Can I ask what is the name of the conference, which is next week? I know somebody who would be very interested to go there.
Ed, do you know the name, or I can look it up and share with you guys? Ed, do you have the name handy in your mind?
Yes, it is the AI Summit, and it's sponsored by RAPS and APTO, the Association of Food Drug Officers. So you'll find it if you go to RAPS. You'll find the AI Summit.
Okay, perfect.
And it's in Cincinnati, Ohio, right?
That's correct. It's in Cincinnati.
Is that at Xavier's?
It used to be part of the Xavier program, but Xavier dropped all their conferences. And so RAPS and APTO picked it up, and they've been sponsoring the same conferences around the country. And I know the combination products one is going to be in Fort Worth next month also.
Awesome. Okay, got it.
I'm going to be at that one.
Okay, thank you, guys. So I'm going to give a couple of minutes to Pascal to gather his thoughts and, maybe share a few closing comments as we close. But in the meantime, again, guys, I want to share with you just a few housekeeping announcements. The first one, those of you who are new, we meet every Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern. This is a very casual event. You don't need a formal invitation. There's no registration. If you're interested, mark it on your calendar. Every Friday, you don't have to join every Friday. You can find recordings, as I mentioned, on my Let's Talk Risk newsletter. So that's the second thing I want to ask you is please go and sign up for the newsletter. The link is there in the first comment of this event page. You will find recordings of the past conversations, as well as when this recording is ready, I will put this up there. Plus, you will also find key highlights. So in case you are in a hurry, you don't want to spend 30 minutes listening to a recording, you can read a quick article. And finally, here is my call to action. I know all of you, without exception, have some expertise, some insight, some know-how, some interesting view on topics of interest in risk management or medical devices in general. I invite you to join me as a guest speaker. This is open to all, no preparation required. Believe me, we just meet 15 minutes before going live and we just chat a little bit and we present this to you. This is not a webinar, no major presentation required. So please reach out to me if you're interested in joining me as a guest speaker and being a part of this conversation. So I look forward to hearing from you. With that, Pascal, the floor is yours. Please share any closing comments that we can take away with.
Yeah, I was just wondering what I can say that is worth saying. But I think, one of the common things that we just talked about was there's just, overall kind of the field, of both topics is fairly new and regulatory bodies may or may not be very prepared. So and it brought up the topic of PCCPs. I mean, it's more common in the US, but let's say in Europe, I mean, I know a couple of cases where that also worked out, but I mean, it's not really formally accepted, but like it's as long as, or like there's no standard or no general guidance, but as long as you, let's say, do the right thing that makes sense for a certain device, then you can still get it in. And I think the main point to bring up is like, since it's like a new field, just like using common regulatory approaches and kind of try to make them work for digital therapeutics or AI to the best extent possible, and actually putting in the work and explaining how you came to the conclusion why you did it that way. I mean, so far that typically most times worked out, and you if there's something new, I mean, you have to find a way, because there may not be guidance yet. I mean, more and more standards coming up, and obviously using them, the technical reward that it was mentioning, and so on. But like, if there are gaps, you'll need to find a plan yourself, and typically starting from with a couple of key principles that are not just for software but for any devices. Applying them as good as possible. I guess that's the main thing we need to find out.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. And guys, what I will say is, since this is a new field and an exciting field, we also have an opportunity to shape it. So go to the conferences like the one that Ed mentioned. Be a part of this conversation and contribute your expertise, because we are shaping the Play-Doh here, and a beautiful piece can come out that we may all love. So we all have a role to play. I leave it at that, and wish you guys a very good weekend ahead, and look forward to seeing you next week. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Right. As we get